Welcome to this deep dive. You've shared some really thought-provoking material with us, all focused on how we can take control, really, and actively shape our own success and personal growth.
That's right. It's a fantastic collection of ideas we have here. And what we want to do today is really get into the core of these concepts.
Okay.
Pull out what's most useful, most practical, and help everyone see how they can apply these principles.
Yeah.
Move forward with a real sense of direction.
Yeah, clarity and purpose. And it all seems to circle back to this really powerful statement that just jumps right out. Success starts with a choice, not a chance. It's such a direct way to put it, isn't it? Immediately puts the ball back in our court.
Absolutely. It sort of challenges that whole idea that success is just something that happens to some people.
Right, like luck of the draw.
Exactly. And not others. Instead, it frames it as the direct outcome of the decisions we make, the actions we take, day in, day out.
Okay, so let's dig into this then. One of the first big ideas that comes up is taking responsibility. Now that sounds pretty straightforward, but actually doing it in practice, that can be surprisingly tough, really owning our part in things.
It really can be. It's often easier, isn't it, in the moment, to look outside ourselves when things don't go quite as planned.
Yeah, blame circumstances or other people.
Or just bad luck, yeah. The source material definitely touches on this tendency we have. And then there's that really direct quote from Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
The only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't have it.
Wow. That really makes you stop and think, doesn't it, about your own internal chatter. We get so comfortable sometimes with our excuses, those narratives we build about why we're stuck, even if deep down we know they're holding us back.
Exactly. And the real shift, the powerful part, happens when we move from that place of blame to asking ourselves, okay, whatever's happened, what can I actually do today, right now, to move towards where I want to be?
That's where the power comes back.
That's it. That's where that sense of personal power starts to, emerge, like the source points out, taking full responsibility. It might feel a bit uncomfortable at first.
Yeah, definitely.
But ultimately, it unlocks this feeling of freedom.
Yeah.
Because, when you recognize you played a part in creating the situation.
You also realize you have the ability to influence what happens next.
Precisely. If you cause the problem, or part of it, you can also help create the solution.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so step one, taking responsibility. What's the next piece of this puzzle? The sources really seem to hammer home that growth isn't this, sudden leap,
Right.
but more of a consistent, gradual thing.
Precisely. That concept of daily growth is absolutely key. It's about those small, consistent steps, not waiting for some big dramatic moment or feeling like you need these massive overnight changes.
There's that story in the material about Daniel, the guy who wanted to be a writer.
And he achieved it just by committing to 200 words a day. Just 200 words. It suddenly makes it feel so much more, manageable.
It really does. Less intimidating, right, than thinking, I have to write a whole novel.
Totally.
It kind of demystifies the whole process, and the comparison they make to a habit like brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Something most of us just do every day without fail. It really highlights the importance of that consistent effort, even if the actions themselves seem tiny in the moment.
Like what sort of things?
Well, think about it. Reading just 10 pages a day, or learning one new word, or spending, say, 5 minutes in quiet reflection. These might seem like almost nothing on their own, but the cumulative effect over weeks, months, it can be absolutely enormous.
It's like compound interest, but for your personal development. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. So we're taking responsibility, we're focusing on daily growth, but let's be real, life inevitably throws curveballs. Challenges happen.
Oh, absolutely.
That's where attitude comes in, I guess. That's exactly it. We can't avoid difficulties or setbacks or just unexpected stuff happening. What truly matters, what makes the difference, is how we choose to see those situations and how we respond.
Right.
The source uses a really good analogy here, thinking of your attitude like a lens. The lens through which you view the world.
Like glasses.
Exactly like glasses. If that lens is cloudy or dirty, everything you look at is going to seem distorted or gray.
Yeah, I can picture that.
But when the lens is clear, you get a much more accurate and usually more helpful perspective on things.
That's such a great visual. It really hits home. When you're stuck in a negative mindset, it feels like everything around you is negative. But sometimes just a tiny shift in how you look at it can completely change your experience of it.
And what's really interesting here is the emphasis on our choice in the matter. our power of choice. While we can't always control what happens to us,
Definitely not.
we absolutely have a say in how we respond. And that response, which is so deeply influenced by our attitude, can be truly transformative. Well, it lets us reframe problems, maybe see them as learning opportunities instead,
Okay.
or find potential for growth even when we feel like we've lost something.
Yeah.
It can even help channel fear into motivation. There's that Brian Tracy quote that sums it up perfectly.
What's that?
You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control your attitude toward what happens to you.
Simple but powerful. And the suggestion in the source to actively ask ourselves things like, what can I learn from this? Or how can this help me grow when things get tough?
Yeah.
That feels really practical, like a tool you can actually use in the moment. It shifts you from feeling like a victim to feeling like an active participant in your own, development.
Precisely. It turns what could just be a demoralizing experience into a chance to build resilience and keep moving forward, even if it's tough.
Okay. Now, this next point really struck a chord with me. The idea of discipline over motivation. Because let's be honest, motivating is a bit like a fickle friend, isn't it?
That's a very good way to put it, a fickle friend.
It shows up sometimes full of energy, but you just can't rely on it to be there every day.
Exactly. Motivation can give you that initial spark, that surge of excitement to get started on something new.
Yeah, the New Year's resolution feeling.
Right. But as the source wisely points out, that feeling, it's often temporary. Discipline, though. Discipline is the reliable companion.
Okay.
It's what kicks in and keeps you going long after that initial buzz has faded away.
I love that image you use, discipline being the friend who just shows up no matter what, even when motivation decided to sleep in.
Yeah.
It's about those moments when you really, really don't feel like doing the thing you know is important, but you do it anyway.
That's the core of it, like resisting the snooze button when your alarm goes off.
The hardest one.
Or choosing to head to the gym instead of staying cozy in bed. Or buckling down to focus on your goals when Netflix or social media is calling your name.
Right, those constant little battles.
Exactly. And the key here isn't about achieving some impossible level of perfect consistency straight out of the gate.
Phew, okay.
It's more about establishing a pattern. Small, disciplined actions, repeated over time. Those consistent efforts are far more effective in the long haul than, say, sporadic bursts of intense motivation that just fizzle out.
So consistency trumps intensity, in a way.
In the long run, yes.
Okay.
Discipline really builds that strong foundation for lasting success.
Okay, so discipline keeps us on track, but what about talent? There's this really common belief, isn't there, that some people are just born gifted, and that success just comes easier to them. The sources seem to push back against that idea quite a bit.
They do, and it's such an important perspective to consider. Think about the comparison they make.
Yeah.
Someone who's naturally talented, maybe incredibly gifted, but, they don't really put in the work.
Lazy but talented. We all know someone like that.
Right. Versus someone else who maybe has more, let's say, average natural abilities, but they are consistently diligent. They show up, they work hard, they persevere.
Okay.
Which one usually gets further in the end? Effort becomes the great equalizer. There's that saying. Effort beats talent when talent doesn't try.
Effort beats talent when talent doesn't try. Wow, that's really powerful and kind of democratizing, actually.
It is, isn't it?
It suggests that even if you don't feel like you won the genetic lottery in some area, your commitment, your hard work, your sheer determination, that can still lead to amazing things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It shifts the focus away from just innate ability, which we can't control, towards the power of consistent application and just not giving up. Unwavering perseverance.
So it's less about where you start the race
And
and more about the strength and persistence you show in actually finishing it.
beautifully put. It's about the finish, not just the start line.
Now, we've been talking about moving forward, momentum, but what happens when we inevitably stumble? When things go wrong? Failure is something most of us try pretty hard to avoid,
Understandably so.
but the sources present it very differently, not as an endpoint.
Yes, exactly. Reframing failure, seeing it not as some final judgment on our abilities, but as, as valuable feedback. That's a really crucial mindset shift.
Feedback, okay, how does that work?
Instead of viewing a setback as proof that you're inadequate, or as a clear signal to just give up.
Which is tempting sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Instead, the sources encourage us to see it as essential information. Data, really. Information that can guide us toward a better approach next time.
There's that story about Sarah and her bakery, right?
A great example. She had, what, 2 attempts that didn't quite work out
Yeah, they failed.
before her third one finally took off and thrived. And her key insight, the reason she eventually succeeded, was seeing those earlier attempts not as failures per se.
But as lessons.
Exactly. Lessons that helped her refine her recipes, her business model, everything. Each challenge, each perceived failure gave her data. Insights into what wasn't working. It allowed her to adjust her strategy.
And those questions they suggest asking after a setback, what can I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? How can I grow from this? Those are incredibly empowering questions, aren't they? They immediately shift the focus from blame or disappointment to learning and future action.
They really do. They transform what could be a really discouraging experience into a genuine opportunity for learning and development. And it's worth remembering, like the source points out, virtually every successful person has faced their share of failures, big ones, small ones.
Right.
The key difference is their willingness to learn from them and just keep going. Persistence.
Okay. This next point is something that I think we all kind of know intuitively, but maybe we don't consciously think about its impact enough. And that's the influence of the people we surround ourselves with.
The social circle.
Yes.
Our environment.
It's a truly profound influence, often much more than we consciously realize. Our environment, the individuals we spend the most time with, they have huge impact.
On what specifically?
On our mindset, for sure, our beliefs about what's possible, our aspirations, and ultimately our likelihood of actually achieving our goals. There's that analogy in the source about negative energy sticking to you like mud.
Yes. It's quite a vivid image, isn't it?
It really is. You can almost feel that sometimes, that draining effect of being around constant negativity or cynicism or people who just don't support your goals.
And conversely, think about being in the company of positive, driven individuals. People who are optimistic, who are taking action.
It's uplifting. It can really fuel your own motivation and belief in yourself.
Absolutely. And that principle, the one that suggests we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with,
Yeah, I've heard that before.
while it might be a bit of a simplification, it highlights a really powerful truth. It encourages us to be very intentional, very conscious about who we allow into our inner circle.
So really asking ourselves, are these people lifting me up? Are they challenging me to grow, inspiring me?
Or are they perhaps holding me back, consciously or unconsciously, pulling me down?
It definitely prompts some potentially awkward self-reflection. Do I need to make more conscious choices about where I invest my time and energy, relationship-wise?
It's a crucial question. Should we actively seek out mentors, maybe?
Yeah.
Role models? Or find communities, online or offline, that align with our goals and aspirations?
The answer seems pretty clear when you put it like that.
It really does. It's about consciously curating an environment that actively supports your growth rather than hinders it.
Okay, now this next lesson, this might be a bit of a tough pill to swallow for some people.
Uh-oh.
Because it's not always the most glamorous part of the success story we hear about. It's the necessity of sacrifice.
Ah, yes. The trade-offs.
It's not all just positive thinking and good habits then.
No, definitely not. True progress, meaningful achievement. It almost always requires us to give something up.
Why is that?
Well, the simple reality of limited time is a big part of it. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, right?
Right.
So every single time we say yes to one thing, focusing on work, going to the gym, spending time with family, we are inherently, unavoidably saying no to something else we could have been doing in that same time slot.
The opportunity cost.
Exactly. And the examples provided in the source are so relatable, aren't they? Choosing to skip the junk food if your goal is fitness, opting out of some social events if you need that time to build a business or study.
Or that friend they mentioned who woke up super early every day to write a book before their day job.
Yes, that's a classic example. It really underscores that there's almost always a trade-off involved in pursuing something significant.
Growth requires giving something up.
Often, yes.
Yep.
Growth and progress usually lie just outside our current comfort zone. And stepping outside that zone typically requires sacrificing some level of immediate comfort or pleasure or gratification.
So the question the source asks is pretty blunt then. Are you actually ready to pay the price of progress?
It's a critical question, a really important one for anyone who's serious about achieving their ambitions. What comfort are you willing to trade for growth? What distractions need to go?
Okay, that leads perfectly into the next idea, which is that big, lasting change often isn't the result of just a few grand gestures.
Right.
It's more about the accumulation of small, consistent choices made over time. It's not always those big, dramatic actions we notice.
Precisely. There's that metaphor that uses a single drop of water falling consistently in the same spot,
Yeah.
eventually wearing down even the hardest stone.
Yeah.
It beautifully illustrates the profound power of consistency, even in small things, over a long period.
That's the buildup.
It's the cumulative effect. Those seemingly insignificant daily actions, they compound and ultimately lead to substantial, noticeable results down the line.
The comparison in the material between person A and person B trying to get healthier is so clear. Person A goes all out, tries these huge, unsustainable efforts, burns out.
Yeah, the crash diet or the insane workout plan.
Yeah, right. While person B just adopts small, consistent habits. Maybe walks a bit more, eats slightly better.
And over time, person B gets the lasting results. It's a valuable reminder, isn't it? Slow and steady often really does win the race.
So what are some examples of these small, impactful choices?
Well, the source gives some great ones. Committing to reading just, say, 10 pages each day. Doesn't sound like much, but think about how many books that is over a year.
True.
Or deciding to go to bed even 30 minutes earlier consistently to get better rest.
Important.
Consciously saying no to one specific habit you know is detrimental. Or spending just 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes every single day, focused on your most important goals. Planning or taking one tiny action.
Those all feel doable, manageable.
Exactly. They are actionable steps that, when done consistently, day after day, can lead to truly significant transformation over time.
Which brings us kind of full circle back to the final core message, and it's a really hopeful, empowering one. That success ultimately is a choice. And it's a choice available to everyone. It's not reserved for some select few who were born lucky or had special advantages.
That's right. It really emphasizes that factors like your background, where you started, your current circumstances, they don't have to be permanent limitations. They don't define your potential.
So what does define it, according to this?
Bravery, really. The willingness to step outside your comfort zone, even when it's scary. A commitment to keep learning, to keep growing. And that unwavering perseverance we talked about, just not giving up. Those seem to be the fundamental ingredient.
But regardless of where you start.
Regardless of where you start.
And that final line, that reiteration, success is a choice, and you get to make it every day. That really ties everything we've discussed together, doesn't it? Back to that first powerful statement.
It does, perfectly.
Yeah.
It reinforces this core idea that we are active participants. We are shaping our own success, our own lives, through the thousands of choices we make, moment to moment, day in and day out.
Okay, so just to quickly recap the key takeaways for everyone listening. First, taking full responsibility for your life, your outcomes. No more blame game.
Crucial first step.
Then, embracing the power of daily, consistent growth. Small steps add up.
Absolutely. Consistency is key.
Recognizing the profound impact of your attitude, that lens you look through.
Your perspective shapes your reality.
Cultivating the strength of discipline, because motivation is unreliable.
Discipline is your consistent friend.
Understanding that effort, consistent effort, truly can trump raw talent.
Work hard, keep going.
Learning to view failure not as an end, but as invaluable feedback for improvement.
Failure is data. Learn from it.
Being really mindful of the significant influence of your social circle. Choose wisely.
Surround yourself with lifters, not leaners.
Acknowledging the necessity of sacrifice. Progress often requires trade-offs.
What are you willing to give up for your goals?
Appreciating the transformative power of those small, consistent choices over time.
The drops of water wear down the stone.
And finally, embracing that empowering truth. Success is a personal choice you get to make every single day.
Beautifully summarized. And maybe just building on that final point, think about the bamboo tree for a second.
Okay.
For the first few years after it's planted, you see almost no growth above ground. Nothing seems to be happening.
It just sits there.
But beneath the surface, unseen, it's developing this massive, complex root system, building a super strong foundation.
Okay.
And then suddenly, when that foundation is ready, it shoots up incredibly fast. So as you embark on your own personal growth journey, just remember that bamboo. Even when you don't see immediate outward results, even when it feels like nothing's changing, there's often significant internal development happening beneath the surface. You're building your roots. So trust the process. Keep making those small, conscious choices day by day. And please, Don't get discouraged in those early stages when progress might feel invisible.
Because that unseen root growth.
That's what sets the stage for remarkable future success. Keep watering the seeds.